Welcome inside the locker room, Fantasy Sports Locker Room, Week 1 edition. We'll review, look ahead to Week 2. First meeting, John Collins, Esther McLaren, three of us right for Fantasy Sports Locker Room. We're here at Shark Club in downtown Toronto, Dundas Square. If you're downtown, come by. 2 football games on tonight. They have some good stuff here. What beers? $5.50 for a Budweiser. Good steak sandwiches on special. 39-cent wings. Did you know that? 39-cent wings.
We're hoping.
I think they had them last year for us.
And if they are, they're worth it. Whatever.
You ask nicely, you come in a football jersey, they might treat you 39 cents anyway. So, all right, we'll talk some football. We're doing a league here. For those who don't know, we did a draft here, about a week ago.
It was Monday night.
We had 6 writers here from Fantasy Sports Locker Room, and we had, I think, about 6 to 8 guys who signed up.
8 Joes and 6 pros.
That's right. And so, Orange Press, if you're watching, I can't trade your boy Demaryius Thomas to you. You gave me a really good offer at Jamal Charles. But
That's a really good offer.
Really good offer, but this is how I drafted, and I went wide out. And it turns out I just can't afford to give up to Demaryius Thomas. My third wideout is like Marcus Lee. I'm sorry, man, I can't do it. It's a good offer. What do we want to talk about? Continue to talk about that league. These guys are playing each other.
So far, so good for me.
Yeah. Not so well over here. Tom Brady.
Can you step it up, bud?
Tom Brady, yeah. I'm going against Ricardo. If we do see him, we'll drag him in here. He's a pretty good guy. He runs a show around here. He's got Ruben Reynolds tonight, and I got Rashad Jennings. I'm going 10 points up on him, so I think I'm safe. But let's get into some of the big news, I guess, from today. Obviously, is Ray Rice. The guy's a punk. What can you say? If you haven't seen the video, I'm hitting his girl. I don't know. It's really not even worth watching.
Don't watch it.
Not worth watching. For
I
some
avoided
reason,
that link today. It was like a moment of
I avoided the
thought.
link all day, did really well, and then turned on NFL Network, and they played it every 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you guys think that this part of the video is just getting released now? I mean, we saw the first part of the video. What took so long to get to the rest?
I think that we talked about this before we went on air, and I think that if the NFL really wanted their hands on the video, they could have got their hands on it. Now, with that said, with Roger Goodell, I mean, when he's talking to Ray Rice kind of owns that video. He could have let him say it. Goodell could have demanded it, but what's Ray going to do? If I'm him, I'm not going to turn it over, right? So,
All right. Ray Rice owns the video, but the NFL, Roger Goodell, owned Ray Rice, really, in every sense of the word. It is weird. We saw the first part and the end part, and then just missed the whole middle part. No. I don't buy the fact that the NFL asked for it and we're told no. The NFL gets what the NFL wants.
Indeed. So, anyway, I mean, it is what it is. He's gone for the year. You know, 28 years old and had a bad year last year. He might not be back.
No, and what did we learn from him last year? Really, to me, I think he fell off last year. I didn't want to touch him anyways, but the 2 game suspension, I wouldn't have touched him. Now you're getting him at a discount. Now it turns out you drafted him.
And frankly,
you're going to drop him.
For what it's worth, draft strategy-wise, it wasn't such a bad idea to think you were going to get a suspension discount on Ray Rice and hope he panned out. But, you know, that ship has sailed, and now we're looking at it's Bernard Pierce's show, or is it? Right?
It's not. It's the Justin Forsett show. Believe it or not, it's going to be hard to believe. You know, this guy on his 4th team in the last 4 years. You know, stints in Jacksonville and in Tennessee. Last was Seattle. Seattle's the only place he really had success. That was 3, 4, 5 years ago. You know, the most targets or the most carries he's ever had is 118. Not all that good, and that's the thing. It's going to be kind of a committee in Baltimore until Bernard Pierce proves that he can't run. And really, he can't. He's close, but he's only 23.
And
they're going to hold that vote for him.
And that's the difference between the two of them right there. Now, if it's me, I'm going out and adding Justin Forsett right now.
Absolutely.
Number 1 is a handcuff, and number 2 because he looked a heck of a lot better running the football than did Bernard Pierce this week. But Pierce is in his 3rd year in the league. He's a 23-year-old back. He's a guy that they want to see what he can do this year to see where they're going to end up with him next season, right? But Justin Forsett's a 29-year-old journeyman. I'm not, you know, spending my WAD and FAAB dollars this week to go get Forsett, but if you want him on your roster.
He's also fumbled once in his career, and that was in his rookie season, and he's never missed a game due to injury. I think this guy's much more reliable than Bernard Pierce.
think it's safe to maybe spend $10 on him. I mean, I think I would go out and say spend 10. I mean, I would try to make a claim on both Pierce and Forsett.
And
Forsett would be my number one.
Bernard Pierce right now owned in less than 60% of Yahoo leagues, so
And 9% for Forsett.
and 9% for Forsett. Now both of them, that number is going to go up when the waiver deadline passes Tuesday night. If Bernard Pierce is open in your league again, I know he didn't look that good. I know that you might see a timeshare there, but probably at least for right now, he's the lead dog. You've got to go at him and then use Forsett either and hope for he gets some carries every week, or hope that maybe the injury befalls Pierce and he turns into a nice lottery ticket as a starting back.
Yeah, you can go out now and get both of them. Stick both on your bench for this week, and then whichever one has a better game, it's probably going to be Forsett. Then start him after that point. Write him out. But I do think he is definitely the better of the two players.
So Forsett, if you miss it 11 times 70 yards and a score, target 6 times 5 catches. And I guess that's the lead guy in your waiver wire piece, which you'll see on Fantasy Sports Locker.
He's number one. That'll be up tomorrow morning. Make sure to check it out. But yeah, Pierce only 6 carries. He fumbled on the 6th, got benched. So it's going to be a little tough for him to establish himself. They're saying like a hot hand committee, similar to what St. Louis tells us they're going to try to do. That's not working out so well right now. But
that was an interesting scenario in St. Louis, though, right? I mean, things kind of go off the rail there. We don't know if Sean Hill was hurt. We don't know if they just shut him down after a bad first half. But it's hard to read a lot into that scenario, isn't it, given how things played out against Minnesota?
Yeah, that game was a complete write-off. All people had high expectations for him. Those anymore. He's really not all that good. He's better than Davis that went in, Austin Davis. Yeah, don't own him. Don't own Sean Hill.
Minnesota let Austin Davis throw 16 for 23, I think, yesterday, which is like an item to be aware of. I know they won that game like running away yesterday, but as we look forward at their schedule, it's something to think about that this secondary hasn't been all that strong in recent years, and a guy who's never thrown a career pass was pretty efficient against them.
I think what we do know about St. Louis is that whoever they're playing stream their defense. I think that's a safe bet for sure. And I know a lot of people are going out and getting Tampa Bay defense, no Cam. It might not have worked out the way you wanted it to. In fact, it didn't. They got a couple points. I was one of the few that went out and streamed Tampa last second. But you can go ahead and keep them because they're playing St. Louis again. So there's a good bet there. And I think, and we want to talk about maybe the backs. I know since we're on St. Louis, a lot of the talk, Cunningham.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I mean, Zach Stacy was the lead dog there, right? He got a lot of carries yesterday. It's just, for me, with the upheaval in that game, changing quarterbacks, without them getting a lot done on offense, and with the score being so lopsided, I'm not going to spend a lot of time thinking about the carry distribution there in week 1. Let's take a look at how it plays out over the next few weeks before we know what we think about Cunningham Stacy, right?
Yeah, the most appealing fantasy asset in St. Louis right now is probably Brian Quick.
And there's an interesting story, right? Quick had 9 targets yesterday.
90 yards.
Make some catches, 90 yards receiving, a bunch of targets. Kenny Britt, all the offseason hype about Britt, he picks up 3 targets, no catches.
Avon Austin, a bad day.
Yeah.
Also, it's going to take some time. Whoever's behind center is going to take some time for them to find some chemistry.
And so this is what I'm saying, right? Like, again, the game's way out of whack. They're trailing. It probably gets right off script right away. And then they switch quarterbacks. So I'm excited about Brian Quick again. I'm sure we're going to see him in the waiver piece, and I'm sure he's worth an ad after being the guy there. Someone's going to catch the balls. But let's not like dump Kenny Britt immediately, depending on what the rest of your roster composition looks like. Let's not chalk that all up to a loss, is all I'm saying. It was a strange week 1 game. Let's take a look at the quarterback situation and how things look playing out in the next few weeks. I just don't want anybody overreacting, right?
Okay. One thing we usually like to do when we start off this show is just go through some of the top dogs from week 1, and we'll look through some of them here. I know most of them are our own. Got Essence Boy, Matt Ryan, who I do own in this league. Hey, how did he look yesterday? Hey, pretty good. Go pick him up if you can. You most likely can.
And that's the thing. I don't know what you want to say about Matt Ryan. I mean, that was probably your fantasy line of the day. It sunk me in a matchup. I was playing against him. We talked about this off air yesterday, Eston. Hey, look, very good with that offense back together, right? The boys are together. Your boy Levine Swallow making a few catches as well, looking sharp. And that defense isn't looking so good. You know, yes, they play the Saints, and they're going to put up points on anybody, but if they're going to struggle all year to stop people, then they're going to throw the ball a whole bunch, and it sure looks good with those guys working together. Guys, we got our boy Ricardo from Shark Club just stopped by. We mentioned him earlier. He's in our FSLR Pro-Am League. Ricardo runs down. He does very well on Monday nights here. He's just setting up a giveaway table. I don't know what the goods are on there.
He's got some kind of jersey.
Tonight's winner gets some Giants gear.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Very nice.
Nice, fresh Eli shirt for somebody to win tonight. Giving it out to the winner of their trivia contest. And hey, it looks like something we can all win at. So if you're watching right now, game starts 7:10. You're going to see Lions Giants, and we'll cue that up later on. Why don't you come down and join us, get in on the game, and see if you can take on my new shirt.
Yeah, you're just going to have to fill out a questionnaire. It's pretty easy. What player will make the first QB sack? Who's going to score the first field goal? Who's going to lead at halftime? Who's going to win the game? Things like that. They treat you real well down here. If you haven't been down to the Shark Club, like John mentioned here, at Dundas Square, all the TVs dream of it, all the games you can ask for.
This jersey in a whole lot better condition than Eli's is going to be probably by the end of the first drive.
And we'll have that conversation as we cue out the game. I'm looking forward to being all over the Giants, but let's finish up.
We'll continue with some of the top guys. We talked about Matt Ryan, obviously, Oni, Andrew Luck, King Van, Julius Thomas. These guys are on top. It's one of these. Le'Veon Bell, I'm sure we'll get to. Look phenomenal. Lynch. And then we get into some other guys. Jake Locker, you had a couple nice tweets about.
Jake Locker, first game with Ken Wisenhunt, third most efficient game of his career. It was his third highest completion percentage in a game when he's thrown more than 25 passes. He looked sharp. He found Kendall Wright, which I liked a whole lot as well. Wright gets in the end zone yesterday. He only scores a couple touchdowns last year. We saw what Wisenhunt's offense did with what was kind of stagnant there in San Diego last season, which is a storyline of interest tonight too, mind you. We saw how well that looked. I liked how it looked in Tennessee this year. You know, if I'm in a deep league, if I want a bench QB, if I'm in a 2 QB league, I'm pretty interested in Jake Locker. He can move around with his feet. He was much more accurate in an offense that's designed to produce accuracy from quarterback. I liked it.
We're worried about a little bit of KC, though. I mean, that defense is definitely not the same anymore with Derek Johnson. I don't think you can own them at all in fantasy.
No, they're a mess. They might be the biggest mess in the league right now if we want.
Well, and with the disaster that happened in defense, right? 2 key cogs go down there. And to me, that's a really interesting point about changing context from one year to the next. I talk a lot about not overreacting to things in my post this week. I've done it already on air tonight. I don't want to make too much of week 1, but Kansas City has a much tougher schedule for one thing this year, so I'm not sure about their win-loss outlook. For another, their defense was run on hard yesterday by Tennessee. I'm going to quote the stat, and I might be wrong. It was 162 rushing yards yesterday put up by the Tennessee Titans in a romp of victory. And that was like Sean Green running the ball. Bishop Sankey, by the way, only had 6 carries.
And that's what I wanted to get to, with the run game in Tennessee.
And what I'm going to talk about right now first, though, is just look out against Kansas City. This was a defense you avoided starting guys against last year, and I think pretty quickly this is going to be a defense that you're going to want to play your stars against. And being a little bit ahead of the curve on that heading into week 2 isn't such a bad idea.
Okay, so let's talk about, the running back situation, because a lot of people had Sankey rated between probably 20 and 26.
I had him right about there, actually, yeah.
Yeah, rated around there for running back rankings. And like you said, he had 6 attempts, and most of those came, the game was already out of hand late. And it was Sean Green who had 15 attempts, 71 yards. So he seems like he's the guy right now who's going to get the ball first, right?
Yeah, and credit Green for putting it together, right? He had a pretty nice looking game.
Yeah, and we touched on Jake Locker earlier. I want to go back to that a little bit. And really, let's not totally buy into the Sean Green hype. That running game in Tennessee is still a bit of a mess. And then with Locker as well, everyone at the start of the year, everyone was all over Justin Hunter, expecting a big year from him. for him to have a big year, Jake Walker's going to have a big year. And, he's in my piece as well. And I think if you're a guy who waited on a quarterback, ended up with a Carson Palmer, Geno Smith type, Jake Walker's the guy you look at to start him.
Well, good news for Jake Walker and good news for Sean Green is they get the Dallas Cowboys, and San Fran made pretty easy work of them.
Yeah, in fairness to Dallas, San Fran made pretty easy work of them because Tony Romo made pretty easy work of them. Sure. They scored, I think, three touchdowns on turnovers yesterday, and really the second half they didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, they had 3 scores in their first 4 possessions, I think. So,
if you think Jerry going to the second guess thing, not taking Johnny Manziel last night,
I think he might second guess himself a lot more as the season goes on here. All right, but Dexter Buster had 9 attempts too. So, are we still hanging on to Sankey and just like what? Yes. Really, he's not the most skilled rookie running back out of the bunch.
Let's say this.
But he had the best opportunity.
I ranked Bishop Sankey high because of his opportunity, and Sean Green ran pretty well yesterday. However, this guy doesn't really stay healthy. He's got 2 bum legs. I'm not sure he's going to hold up for 16 games, so I'm not cutting ties on Sankey right now. I think he'll develop. He'll get a few more carries as the season moves along. With that said, if someone's actually going to give me some RB2 value for him right now, I might jump on that. I don't think you're going to get it. But if you're going to get some RB2 value out of Sankey, I'll admit an early mistake in my ranks and hope that he picks it up as the season moves along.
Yeah, his value much more in keeper dynasty leagues. Not going to do a whole lot for you in redraft leagues.
All right, so we'll continue to go down the list. It was Locker and then Alan Hearns next. Alan Hearns, the first player in NFL history to have 2 touchdowns in his first 2 targets.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
In his first game. Right?
So, Hearns gets you, 27 fantasy points yesterday? Yeah. So, 27 points, does all of that pretty much in the first quarter. Alan Hearns is he in your piece?
Yeah.
Am I in?
Look at? Huh?
Am I buying?
Yeah, perhaps. You're probably not going to want to start him next week. You're going to want to see him do this again before you're putting him in there over a guy that you selected to be your wide receiver 3.
The only thing I want to
Cecil Shorts is going to play.
Right, so that's what I want to talk about, right? Cecil Shorts missed this week. It was a bit of a surprise, a late week injury, and he misses out. When we get excited about Hearns, and yeah, you probably want to add him.
That third job.
And that's what I was going to say. You want to add him because he's the third receiver there, so he's certainly worth owning. Shorts hasn't always stayed on the field 16 games either, so he'll have other opportunities. But Marquise Lee played well enough yesterday to say this guy's still the number 2. In fact, he looked pretty legit working as a 1 yesterday. 6 catches, looked pretty good. But the order is still Shorts, Lee, Hearns. And do we think that Jacksonville's offense can support 3 startable wide receivers every week?
They're going to be down by 17 most weeks.
I anticipated an immediate no there, and that's not a bad point. But I'm not dropping Chicago's wide receiver 3, Antonio Holmes, for Alan Hearns. Maybe I don't know.
I do like Marcus Lee.
That looked pretty good.
He looks sharp.
I do like Marcus Lee a lot. He had a very quiet first half. I think he only had 1 target, 1 catch. It was all Alan Hearns. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter of those targets. But Lee had a great second half. I think he ended up with about 10 targets.
Yeah, 10 targets, 6 receptions.
6 receptions, and it was a good point on Shorts because he's never really around all that often, and he's been banged up all preseason. Sure, even if Shorts is around, Essen made the great point that they are going to be down a lot. Even though that defense looked okay in the first half, they are going to be down a lot. Chad Henne looked okay. Philadelphia's defense is not that great, so we can't really take too much stock into that. What really did tick me off is I'm a huge Blake Bortles fan, and the more Chad Henne does well, offensive connections, Blake Bortles is not going to get in. But I do like that offense a little bit. And if Gerhardt's hurt, maybe they just have to throw the ball because who else is running the ball there? A wide receiver. He's a wide receiver.
I didn't even have an answer for you. That was a good
Robinson.
Denard Robinson,
quarterback,
wide out on Yahoo. You go pick him up. He's running the ball yesterday. And he actually looked okay.
Denard Robinson is their number 2 back there.
Even with missing time, though, Toby Gerhardt had way more carries than Robinson and Tobin combined.
Indeed. He had 18 carries for 48 yards, something like that. I find it interesting that he got the work that everybody said he was going to. Philadelphia's front seven is not so bad, so I'm not going to stress over the 48 yards he gets, especially if he's a little dinged up. But yeah, missed some time, still has 18 totes. He's going to get the workload.
3 targets, 3 receptions too, so he's a reliable
21 touches. If we're going to go, we talked the rookie running back a little while ago that didn't get much carries. Tank Missouri, struggling. Week 1, guys, got a little bit of the week 1 hang-ups, just like we saw on the field last night.
We'll get to Jamal Charles.
There's not much to get to there now. He'll be all right. Andy Reid was negligent. He'll be all right. He's going to get the ball. Surprise in a game where Dwayne Bowe isn't even on the field that he's only got 7 carries. But nobody's worried about Jamal Charles. Guys, joined here by Mark. He plays in the FSLR Pro-Am with us, and he just ran from the camera, but we welcome him. Team Irish down this week, yeah? Fighting Irish struggling this week?
Well, I'm up by 2.
It's up a pair heading into the
got
evening's
anybody
game.
going tonight?
I'm down, I have I just here from Detroit.
Golden Tate.
Sounds like he has Golden Tate.
Oh, he's got Megatron. Against Megatron? Oh, yeah.
He's up by 2.
All right.
That's all.
So Mark's game's over. We'll catch up with him in a little bit. But I was going to say something about Carlos Hyde, right? He looked good on the field, running hard, gets the score, finds himself in the end zone, and finds Michael James off the team today. But before we get too excited about it, and I've been down on Frank Gore as hard as anybody, Gore played 42 snaps yesterday. Hyde played 15, a lot of them in garbage time.
Basically.
Well, he scored that touchdown early.
I think, was that early?
Early enough. It wasn't like the game wasn't over. So Hyde scores, has a nice day. Frank Gore was still on the field a whole lot there, and they just freed up some depth chart there. So it's not like he's gone, but that 16 carries that Gore had yesterday is probably more in line with what I think you're going to see than a 20-carry week, right?
Yeah, what we've learned from San Fran over the past couple of years is they love to run the ball more than anybody. So I think they're going to really – I think Hyde is a great play. He's definitely the most skilled rookie running back out of the full bunch in my mind. And San Fran, they let to run the ball a little bit. I think they're going to take a little bit of the load off Frank Gore all season, so he stays a little bit more fresh.
Right. Yeah, because they're planning for an 18-game season or a 19-game season, right? Yeah. So, I dig that. I follow that, and I'm going to like Carlos Hyde. Jeremy Hill surprised me a bit yesterday. He didn't get a lot of work. I guess Hugh Jackson says today that he plans to get him a little more. Just 6 carries. Looked all right with him.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, Jeremy Hill, I like him a ton. Let's keep with the running back rookie theme for a little bit because Ben Tate, surprise, the guy hurt his knees a ton. Well, he's not a ton, but he's out of the game.
Miss some time.
Might miss some time. Who knows how much time? But let's be real. If you drafted Ben Tate, I really hope that you weren't expecting 16 games out of him because he's never had the opportunity for one, and even as a backup, he hasn't had the opportunity to work a little bit. So Terrence West now becomes on the radar. He had 100 yards, 16 attempts. Even though he didn't find the end zone, it was somebody else who found the end zone. It was still like Terrence West.
Yeah, we like West more than Crowell. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, Crowell.
Yeah.
That's when we find
carries. 5 carries, 2 scores, gets the goal line work, and that's interesting. But those 5 carries aren't actionable. Like you can't do anything except maybe in super TD heavy leagues, but you can't do anything with 5 carries. You can do something with 16 carries and 100 yards from Terrence West. Right.
Yeah. So we're not buying him. He's on your piece, mate.
Yeah, he's there. I have a 1 week wonder segment. You're gonna find Crowell in there, Donnie Avery's in there, Antoine Smith, Atlanta Falcons, he's in there. These guys, Crowell 2 scores, Smith 1 big play, Donnie Avery was the #1 target in a week where Jamal Charles had 3 carries.
And where Dwayne Bowe was.
Dwayne Bowe's gonna come back. He's gonna be #1. Alex Smith can sustain multiple productive receivers, and Jamal Charles is going to see more than 3 carries for 15 more weeks.
All right. Okay, so Tate, we're talking about Bobby Rainey a little bit here. Are we a little bit worried about Doug Martin? Bobby Rainey.
I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about Doug Martin. Certainly, I mean, he didn't look that good running the ball last year. All right. before he goes down. Frankly, didn't look as
First few
efficient
weeks
as
were
Randy
actually
did,
really
right? Yeah.
Yeah, Mike James even came in.
Mike
and all of a
James
sudden
looked
he was
sharp,
scoring
actually, yeah.
games.
Little worried about Martin's 9 for 9 line. Again, it's week 1. We're not killing ourselves overreacting here. I'm going to hang in, see what happens. Bobby Rainey I like, particularly if Martin does miss time. He's a guy you probably should have owned as one of the higher-end handcuffs anyway, just because of his context. He's not a magic man with the ball. We saw what he can do last season, but he's a guy who's going to carry the ball for a team that likes to run it. So let's have an eye on Bobby Rainey.
I think he ranks right there. If I was to rank a top 10 or whatever in pickups, he's right there with Cunningham, I would say. Maybe Roy Baloo.
These are all solid handcuff guys. These are all guys you probably want on the back end of your roster so that they turn into starters. You don't want to start Cunningham right now. You don't want to start Bobby Rainey unless Martin misses time right now. But you might want to own them before the waiver wire becomes a rush, right? Pick them up now before in week 4 he's the starter. I don't see the point of owning guys on the back end of your roster that are consistent 3 to 5 target guys. They know their defined role. I want to use the back end of my roster for a guy who can start for me right away.
Well, that's like Doug Martin. He's a high pick there 3 years ago. So the Buccaneers as a team don't want to give up on him already. But Lovie Smith has zero affiliation with Doug Martin. He's not really tied to him, the new coach there. He's not his guy. So he's going to go with whoever is going to produce for him. And if that's Bobby Rainey, it's going to be Bobby Rainey.
Now, he probably leaves Martin as the starter, but he doesn't owe him 20 carries, right? He doesn't have that allegiance to him.
all that long.
It was looking like it was going to be Charles Sims before he went down. It was looking like he was going to take over it. They were going to use it right back like they did use freedom.
If we're talking about back end of the roster, guys, it should be noted that the whole Josh Gordon situation looks interesting. If you're wondering about whether you want to own him, this is probably not the first place you've got this news, and if it is, you're in trouble already. But Gordon might get back on the field this season. He's definitely worth a waiver claim over a guy who's going to give you 50 yards a week. Because he can be a starter. He's a back-end bench guy that can turn into a starter like that, whereas Alan Hurts can't, right?
Yeah. If I'm looking ahead to a championship game, Week 16, I'm going to start Josh Gordon over Alan Hurts.
Exactly, and that's what you care about right now, right?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You're not going to win your championship in the first few weeks. You can't lose it if you don't make the right moves. We're talking about backs. We're talking about handcuffs. Eddie Lacy. It looks like he's going to play, but we're still going to try to go out and get James Starks because you do remember Eddie Lacy did have a concussion last year as well. Right around the same time, I think it was week 2 last year. He missed some time, came back, struggled.
You also remember that then he turned it on, right?
Yeah.
Has a concussion, suffers an injury to his lower body somewhere, then he comes back and he's non-stop. I'm not worried about Eddie Lacy, but I'm going to own James Starks as insurance.
Well, that's the thing. James Starks, 1 start last year, 100-yard game.
Yep.
So even if he is going to only get the 1 start and Eddie Lacy's going to return in 2 weeks, you're going to want it out of James Starks. And then they play the Bears in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. That's probably a game where you might want to start both.
Yeah, Chicago's run defense didn't look any better this year than they did last. That's for sure against Buffalo. Fred Jackson ripped off that nice run to win the game.
And that was basically all he had. TJ Spiller was a little bit slow, but then he got the majority of the carries. But at first it was looking like Fred Jackson wasn't getting anything done, but he didn't have that big run.
That passing game score looked pretty good for TJ Spiller, too. I like the way they set that up, found him out of the backfield walking in for a score.
Is Forsett the number 1 waiver wire guy you need to go out and get? We agree on that?
For me, yeah. He has the least competition, I'd say, and possibly the biggest role.
Chris Ivory.
I like Chris Ivory. For what it's worth, Ivory had 10 carries and Chris Johnson only had 13 yesterday.
I can't tell either of them apart out there. I'll tell you that last night. They both had the long, I couldn't keep them apart.
One of them will be racing a cheetah, one of them won't be. That's how you know. Chris Johnson supplemented his work with 5 receptions.
Right. He had that big run.
Yeah, Ivory did.
Yeah.
And he looked good otherwise, too, right? So I like his 10 carries. I'll hang on to them. Those are usable in deep leagues as a flex. You're probably going to get enough work out of those guys to have an RB2 and a flex every week because New York's going to like to run the ball. The wide receiver that we talked about yesterday with Pat Mayo at the PME, everybody, if you're not following him already. Talking Pat, he was worth way more free agent bid dollars than Josh Gordon, and I don't want to be out there on
Kelvin Benjamin, Marcus
Benjamin. Marcus Wheaton, I'm interested in. Calvin Benjamin.
Calvin
boy.
Benjamin, if he could get it done with, who was it, Anderson throwing him the ball? Just wait till Cam Newton turns.
He dominated the targets there, and he looked good. He had that nice catch in the end zone with the corner draped all over him. He may never run great routes. That was the beef on him coming out of college, but he catches balls and he wins battles.
And that catch he had was phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, you gotta go
Just
check
second on Calvin Benjamin. He's a guy, it's weird. You know, Pat talked about him yesterday in his waiver piece, so I was looking at him for mine. He's owned in 72% of Yahoo leagues.
79 now.
79. 36% of NFL.com leagues. NFL.com users, what are you doing? Go get him.
Round one, maybe you gotta switch over to Yahoo, I don't know. But maybe we gotta switch over to NFL.com.
There you go. I'm
It's easier over there.
Yeah.
So Calvin Benjamin ranks up there. Marcus Wheaton too is very interesting.
You know,
Too
the
bad.
thing
Obviously,
about
Big Ben is not going to throw like that every.
that's what I was gonna say. The thing about Wheaton is it was a nice game. He drew a lot of targets and he looked good. He's their number 2 receiver. You should absolutely own Marcus Wheaton. You probably should have drafted him in most leagues of standard size. However, Big Ben threw for like 211 yards in the first half, 380 or something like that in the game. He's not gonna throw 400 every week, right? I don't know. He's worth an own.
Yeah. How? Ricardo, man, you got to come over here to Shark Club. How? What about Antonio Brown? Is this guy going to get suspended for the kick? That could make Marcus Wheaton a good next week, number 1.
It's a finable offense. He's not going to get suspended
Right.
for the biggest and best highlight reel play of the season.
That's the play of the year.
If you haven't seen his
Rest of season
stop,
4
it was awesome.
He definitely did it on purpose. He could have been caught. He was
Gone.
He could have went to the sideline and ran a
He
touchdown.
traded a touchdown for a face kick.
Yeah.
Yep, can basic over touchdowns. You know, it should be a fancy stat. If you win,
10
automatically.
points. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was actually Wheaton, about Wheaton though, he had 7 targets, Brown 6. Le'Veon Bell 7. So he led the way in targets, Marcus Wheaton. This is a guy who's a sleeper.
Again, he's going to get wide receiver 2 targets every week. Emmanuel Sanders had a very serviceable season there last year in that spot. Marcus Wheaton's in that spot, and in his first legit game of action, looked pretty good. So, yeah, he's worth an ad if you don't own him already.
What about Andrew Hawkins?
He's not going to let me talk about other former Steelers.
Now we'll leave Mike Wallace for when you can rant about your Patriots.
Bad day.
Rant about them.
It's just a down day.
That's
He'll
it.
be all right.
Move on.
I want to talk about Mike Wallace. This is a fantasy football podcast, and I liked Mike Wallace. Bill Lazor moved him all over the scheme, just as promised yesterday. Created a bunch of mismatches. I think they had Jamie Collins running with Mike Wallace downfield on one play. Very smart the way they positioned him. They're going to get their best player the ball. He had 11 targets. Brian Hartline had a handful. Landry had a handful. He dominated the wide receiver landscape for Miami. They're going to be getting this guy the ball all year, getting them those mismatches, and my New England Patriots, not such a bad secondary, and he owned them yesterday.
And that's the thing, Ryan Tannehill can't really support multiple productive guys. But if he's going to find a guy he can trust early, look like ball.
And now they still had some troubles, right? He threw a brutal pick on a deep ball. Wallace let another one hit him in the face that was good for a long gain. They had troubles last year connecting on deep outs, but if they're getting better matchups, and if Lazor's scheme is getting the ball to Mike Wallace, I really like him. Right? I'm good about the way it started.
Hartline, since we're sticking with Miami, is the guy that you want to own. This is the guy who doesn't really find the end zone.
You know, Hartline's a guy in PPR leagues that I'm definitely into, but he's that guy I talked about. The guy, why own him on your roster, that you're not on a lotto ticket more than anything else. Thank you so much.
Good, thanks. Sure.
I know Jordan was taking care of you guys, but now after you guys are going to my name is Brenda. Just wave me down whenever you guys have a chance.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Got Brenda with us here at Shark Club Young Dundas, where we're just about to kick off Monday night. Do we want to talk about it?
Me too. I kind of want to talk about the tight end zone. because there are some tight ends that are going to miss some time. And Jordan Reed is one of them. We don't know how much time he's going to miss, but it was definitely a risk when you go and get him. He's just been hurt, not just last year throughout school, all careers on college and stuff. And Jordan Cameron looks like he digged up his shoulder a little bit too, and that's why I wanted to talk about
Eifert's elbow is done.
And Eifert's elbow is done. That's another good point. So 3 tight ends right there. Maybe you didn't go out and get Eifert because they're going to run the ball. You could have had him. You could have had him. Good young tight end, so he could have been a keeper for you. Where do we go, and who do we look at for tight ends now?
Well, there's 2 widely out there. You know, the one everyone knows about, Wayne Allen out there in Indianapolis. And like we see, well, Robert Mathis, he's done for the year now. It's their Achilles tear. So they're going to be down quite often, possibly. They're going to throw the ball even more than they already like to. And they're starting running back to Trey Richardson, so they can't run the ball ever. So they're going to look to throw a lot. Wayne Allen, gets some touches. But the guy I really like more than anyone, Levine Toilolo, Atlanta, as we see. It's a great name.
You're the only guy I know that says it well. You own it.
A lot of research. This is a team, their defense also bad. I want to talk about Indianapolis as being bad. Atlanta's is worse, as we saw. Drew Brees having his way against them. Even Mark Ingram running well. We talked about Pat Mayo earlier. Doesn't like Mark Ingram. Had a good day against Atlanta's defense. So they're going to be down a lot. This is a team, they had the greatest tight end ever in Tony Gonzalez the last 4 years. He's now retired, gone. Still the same offensive coordinator in Dirk Quitter. He likes to use that tight end. They're not going to completely abandon it. Levine Toilolo, he's not going to be that involved as the ball gets worked down the field. But he's a red zone guy, a goal line guy, and he's going to put up touchdowns.
That's what I was going to say. I think that he might be the red zone target for Matt Ryan.
He's a big body, right?
Yeah, and that's what exactly what Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, and they have these, good wide receivers in Devin Hester, Harry Douglas as well. You can find all 3 of these guys in my article. These are guys that are going to work the ball down the field, have big plays. They're not always going to score on these big plays, and then they're not going to be much of a factor in the red zone. Find Tololo kind of a receiving vulture, and he's going to get a touchdown, I'd say more often than not this year.
All right. Andrew Hawkins, we got to talk about him for a second. He's going to get a lot of targets now. He's one of the better wide receivers out there.
Yeah, I mean, he had a usable game yesterday. Again, the guy that because we knew about Josh Gordon missing time, you'd think would have been drafted in most leagues. But now, if Jordan Cameron misses any time at all, I mean, his outlook's definitely looking up. They've got to throw the ball to somebody. Hawkins is a shifty guy. I've always liked his work in the slot. They moved him around a little, got him outside yesterday as well. Yeah, he's worth a look. The needle's pointing up, especially as long as Cameron is out.
Like, not even just Cameron, Ben Tate out as well. So we talked about Terrence West, obviously going to get involved with the running load. They might pass the ball more times. Well, I like him a lot, especially in PPR leagues. I feel like he might be the go-to guy there now through the air. All right, a couple other things that I want to talk about that we learned yesterday. Trent Richardson, they started to give him the ball a little bit more, but Ahmad Bradshaw really took over and looked well.
Ahmad Bradshaw looked great. He looked great in the receiving game, absolutely. I don't think Trent looked that bad in the rushing game. They got dominated in the first half, and then they didn't spend a lot of time running the ball, but Bradshaw looked great as a receiving back. I'll give him that.
It's still like 26% owned in Yahoo leagues too, so that's a low amount. He's probably available. What we learned in Miami, that Sean Marino, maybe it's just doing the Patriot thing. But Sean Marino last year, he ran all over the Patriots. He looked pretty good yesterday too. And at first it was looking like Lamar Miller. Yeah, he did get the touchdown in the red zone.
Right.
But it looks like Sean Marino is going to kind of carry the load there.
Miller put the ball on the ground. Now, he still had pretty even second half carries, so it's not like they turned away from him after that. But right around the time that Miller popped that fumble up in the air, you saw the shift to Sean Marino, and he was running hard. Both guys put up good averages yesterday. They had nice numbers, but Marino was the better rusher there. And I think any debate, if I'm Joe Philbin, any debate is finished. That guy's my lead back. I count on Marino getting 16 or so carries every week and enjoying them.
It seemed all camp long, too. They were telling us stories, once a week, a different story about why Sean Marino isn't going to be good. He was awfully good week 1. He looks in shape. He's good to go.
Very well. And I was a guy that was kind of hard on him during camp because of the rhetoric. But when you saw the product on the field yesterday, he looked pretty darn good.
He was the first Miami back gone in one of my drafts, and I kind of laughed. But
There you go. Yeah.
We'll go. I want to talk about Mark Ingram too, because one thing we did know, what we thought going in, was that Pierre Thomas was not going to lead the Saints in rushing attempts, and he didn't yesterday.
He didn't.
He had 7. Ingram had 13, and he found the end zone. A lot of people are low on Ingram. I think we're both high on him.
So I'm very high on Mark Ingram, and I like nothing more than seeing him score 2 touchdowns on 13 carries yesterday. I will say this, though. Pierre Thomas won't ever lead them in rushing this season, I don't think. But he did pick up 12 touches, right? So it's not like they wrote that guy out of the game plan. Kyrie Robinson actually got the first goal line carry for New Orleans as well. So as much as I like Ingram, as much as I think that his strong game legitimizes some of that preseason interest, and I love seeing him score 2 touchdowns, let's not act like a big fantasy point number there guarantees him RB2 status every week. He only got 13 carries. That's probably like right in his wheelhouse the rest of the way. I see him a lot more as a 200 to 225, 30 touch guy than I do anything higher than that. So
Do we like him over Kyrie though?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, for now. Keeper value, obviously Kyrie a bit higher. Thing is, too, you got to remember, most of the defenses they're going to face the rest of the season are better than Atlanta's. So, he's probably not going to get 2 touchdowns again, but it is a surgical game, and some promises.
All right, so if you can hear, we got the football game ready to go. We got Giants, Lions, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about tonight.
So let's wrap that. I mean, I'm only really watching 2 storylines in this first game tonight, and are the Detroit Lions going to be as good on offense as I think they're going to be, with the addition to Golden Tate, with a little more stability, hopefully a quarterback for Matthew Stafford, with what they're going to do running the ball? That's what I'm watching for the Giants. I want to know if they're going to be as bad as I think they are, because they look pretty bad.
They did look pretty bad. I'm interested in about Jennings. Interested to see if Andre Williams see how many touches he's going to get. There's not much to say what else about that. I mean, I got Detroit defense right. I know a lot of people.
I am rolling the Lions defense.
We're drafting Detroit defense just about this week one matchup.
I own them exclusively, I think.
I'm actually also a little bit excited to see
Yeah, so San Diego's interesting. Again, if you're catching this news from us live on air, that's a little more timely. Antonio Gates is questionable for that game, so what I'm kind of interested about is to see how Phillip Rivers uses Ladarius Green this week. If Gates misses time, but just in general, I want to see that ball going to Green. I want to see how they do in the post-Ken Whisenhunt era as well, right? Again, he really stabilized that offense last year, so let's see what they do without him.
Then in the run game, Andre Ellington out. You don't want either of Jonathan Dwyer or Stephen Taylor. They're just not good. They're not going to be quality or what else?
Someone's
Dwyer
got the
goes
ball,
off
man.
today.
Yeah.
I still think I don't think he's a good back, to be honest. I don't think he's a fantasy relevant back. He might be the guy, and it's good that Ellington. Actually, it's good if you own Ellington. You're happy he's not playing this game because doctors said you can go and play. Trying to play through it, it can take 2-3 weeks to rest.
Yeah, no, long term, you're happy. Absolutely. It's like
Same
the
with Cam Newton. Yeah, exactly.
Michael Floyd, I'm interested in. This is a guy I ranked higher than Larry Fitzgerald this season coming into the year. I really want to see if he starts making good on that tonight. I think that Carson Palmer could look to him early enough, and I'm hoping so.
Yeah, I look for Larry Fitzgerald tonight too. This is a guy who was the guy there forever. And, he might be a little ticked off that he's
Some
forecasted a little bit.
people like John Collins ranking Michael Floyd.
Maybe he reads LockerRoomFantasySports.com.
And if Larry Fitzgerald finds his motivation from there, then God bless him. Good for him. But for me, I hope he fires up Michael Floyd as well. I hope he knows that I believe in him. I believe in you, Michael. We're going to have a good game tonight.
I think Ladarius Green is actually in for a good team as well. I know you touched base on Gates and all of that, but Arizona wasn't that good at guarding tight ends last year. So
Double-digit touchdowns, I think.
yeah, so Ladarius Green's a good play. If you got draft screen, get him in there. Pretty much wraps up week 1, right?
I'm good.
We'll look for Essence article tomorrow, Wednesday. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow is Tuesday.
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was coming after. Yeah. So tomorrow, check out lockerroomfantasysports.com. John will have some articles there as well. Start the week all the time. That's it.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Shark Club, and enjoy the game.
If you can't make it down here this week, make sure you come down next week again. Even away Manning jersey. We're gonna be doing this all year, every Monday. It's a good time. So thanks again. John Collins, that's the first meeting. Catch you next week.
See you guys.